Terence Crawford has been put on notice. You know what you got to do if you really want the Errol Spence fight and you really want to fight the best at the welterweight division. Before we get into this next video, make sure that you sub to the channel and smash on that like button. Sub to the channel and smash on the like button. So we all seen recently when EJ had came out, Errol Spence the Truth, he had came out and he let Terence Bud Crawford know. Yeah, everybody been talking. I see everything that's going on the internet. Everybody trying to act like I'm the one that's ducking. That's the narrative that everybody running with. But after I win this next strap, after I win my next fight, I'm coming straight after Terence Crawford, and we gonna see who really is holding up this fight from happening. Right now, recently, Andre Berto, he went on Barbershop Conversations, and he told all on how PBC run their business, you know, and you got to go check out my last video. I broke that all down, right? He told all on how Al Heyman and how PBC run their business. He not only told that, you know, because he was asked about, you know, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, the fight that everybody want to see, the fight that everybody asked about, right? So he was asked about that fight. And Andre Berto, he went on to speak on it. And, you know, before I get into that, I just want you to know that Andre Berto, he's close with Errol Spence and he is close with Terence Crawford, but he's more so closer to Terence Crawford. So anyway, Andre Berto, he speaks on it and he says that, you know, he just feels bad for Terence Crawford in Terence Crawford's situation, because he says that he talks to Terence Crawford, you know, he has a relationship with Terence Crawford, and he says Terence Crawford actually want all of these big fights, all of the big names that's on PBC, that's in the welterweight division. Terence Crawford wants all of those fights. And he says that, you know, he's sat down and he spoke to Terence Crawford, and he's also spoke to Terence Crawford about the PBC business, how the PBC run business. You feel me? So with that being said, right, Terence Crawford knows exactly how PBC runs their business, and Terence Crawford been knowing what he got to do if he really want that Errol Spence fight. Now, the thing is that Terence Crawford now is coming up and he's going to be a free agent. He's coming up on free agency. But before we even talk about Terence Crawford coming up on free agency, right, let me go ahead and rewind what Andre Berto said about the PBC and how they run their business, right? I'm going to go ahead and play that footage for you, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to continue to cook on this situation and let you know.
He's cold if you think about it, to be honest, man. I mean, like back in the day, it was a lot of, you know, fighters with this promoter fight, this fighter, this promoter, but shit, but Al just, man, he really makes, he really gives a lot of these fighters an understanding of the hub that he's built, and to let them understand, you know, how important and how lucrative just being able to compete within our bubble, and just to be able to make it prestigious enough that nothing outside of our bubble really even matters. You know what I'm saying? So I think that he has done something and created something that he wants to continue to elevate this PBC world into you know, eventually let all the other fighters and all these other in these other camps or on these other sides of the street really see that if they want to fight real competition, they have to go over that way. If they want that real you know, the real honor and the real you know, prestige of being a world champion, they have to go over that way as well. But I mean, we have all the competition over that way as well too. So I think it's a great strategy that he put together, and I mean, it's been working fine for him.
Now, y'all heard Andre Berto break it down and tell y'all exactly the PBC strategy to take over the sport of boxing, to get all of the best competition fighting over there on PBC, to stay in the bubble, right? And they let all their fighters know you ain't got to go outside of the bubble. And they showing all of the other fighters that's not with them, if you want the big paydays, If you really want all the smoke, you got to come right over here. So he told y'all how PBC and Al Heyman run business, right? He also, like I said, he says that he has a close relationship with Terence Crawford, and he sat down and he spoke with Terence Crawford. He's talked to Terence Crawford, and he's saying that he knows that Terence Crawford actually wants all of these big fights. So with that being said, if Terence Crawford wants all of those big fights, right, he knows exactly what he has to do. Now, when Errol Spence said, look, I'm going to call your bluff. After I win this third strap, I'm going to call your bluff, and everybody going to see who really holding up that fight. Now, what Errol Spence really meant by that is he's telling Terence Crawford, you know what it is. You coming up and you about to be a free agent, right? We already know that your promoter ain't been moving you right. Your promoter still ain't got you a big fight in your whole entire career, and you coming up on 33, 34 years old. You still ain't got a big fight. So now you know you got a relationship with Andre Berto. You talk to Andre Berto. You know how we do business over here at the PBC. You know how Al Heyman works, right? So you about to be a free agent. If you really want to smoke, you got to come over here and sign with PBC, or you got to do business with Al Heyman. You ain't got to sign your life away. You don't have to sign no long-term contract, but you know what you got to do. Come over here and fuck with the PBC and let's make it happen if you really want to make it happen, right? But see, the thing is Terence Crawford, he came out with his dream list for his next 3 fights, right? He came out with his dream list for his next 3 fights, right? Now, Terence Crawford, listen to me while I'm saying this. Terence Crawford is coming up on free agency, right? Knowing that he's coming up on free agency, tell me why the dream list of all of those fights, none of those fighters besides Virgil Ortiz were top welterweights, right? He came out with Jose Ramirez, who just lost to Josh Taylor. And the thing that really baffled me about him picking Jose Ramirez is that he actually picked Josh Taylor to beat Jose Ramirez, but he still put Jose Ramirez as the number 1 fighter on his list that he wants to fight next. Does that sound like somebody that really wants to smoke with all of the welterweight division? All of the top guys like Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, you know, all of the top guys, right? So, you know, he also had on the list, right, the second fighter that he had on the list. So the first one was Jose Ramirez. The second fighter that he had on the list was Virgil Ortiz. Now, I do consider Virgil Ortiz one of the best welterweights in the division, but Virgil Ortiz is still very young. He's still got a lot to prove. And Virgil Ortiz is still, you know, he just came in contender status, right? He just stepped up to contender status. Right now, to me, if you ask me, Virgil Ortiz is not on Jaron Boots Ennis level. But of course, Jaron Boots Ennis wasn't on that. He wasn't on that list, right? And then the third opponent was Mikey Garcia. Now, Mikey Garcia isn't with PBC either, right? None of these fighters are with PBC. Now, Mikey Garcia is more of a free agent, so he's able to work with PBC if he wants to. But Jose Ramirez is a fighter that is a top-ranked fighter. Hey, man, so you picked Jose Ramirez after you picked him to lose to Josh Taylor, and he's a top-ranked fighter, right? Now, get where I'm going with it. He then picked Virgil Ortiz, right? So none of those fighters, as you can notice, none of those fighters are PBC fighters. So him knowing that I'm about to be a free agent, right? And I know I got to make my next move my best move, and I know where all the smoke is, where all the big fights is. I know where I got to go. So wouldn't you think that Terence Crawford would have a Keith Thurman on the list? I mean, we already know he didn't want to fight Sean Porter. Wouldn't you think that he would have at least one PBC fighter on the card, on his dream list of next 3 matchups? Why he don't got no PBC fighters on there? Because what it looks like is Terence Crawford has no intentions of going over to PBC. And I might be wrong. But looking at his list, he don't have no PBC fighters on that list. So now that he knows how PBC does business, he has a relationship with Andre Berto. Andre Berto has said out of his own mouth that he's talked to Terence Crawford, right? Why that man don't got no PBC fighters on the list? I mean, now that you know how they do business, how you think you supposed to get all of these big fights, but you not even asking for none of the big names, right? To me, it looks like you either stand with Top Rank or you going to somebody that does business with Top Rank, maybe like a Golden Boy Promotions. I mean, we heard that you just took a flight out to meet the people at MTK Promotions. I don't know what that's about. A lot of people speculating that you might probably be signing with MTK next. I don't know that. I got to look more into that. I got to hear more about it. But like I said, man, the way that Terence Crawford is moving is exactly what Errol Spence was telling y'all when he said, y'all really gonna see who holding up the fight. I'm finna call this dude bluff and y'all really gonna see who holding up the fight. Because I'm telling y'all right now, with what I played for y'all, what y'all heard from Andre Berto, y'all should now know that if Terence Crawford, like I said before, if Terence Crawford does not sign with the PBC when his contract is up in October with Top Rank, Terence Crawford really don't want that smoke. Terence Crawford's career is smoke and mirrors, and he want to continue to play by that. He want to continue to fight lesser opposition where he's a huge favorite, right? Where he know he gonna win, and just, walk through in his career, and everybody gon', that's on Terence Crawford's side, and I'm a Terence Crawford fan, right? But the motherfucking diehard Terence Crawford fans that you can't tell them shit about Terence Crawford, everybody's gonna say, well, none of those dudes want to fight Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford wanted to fight all those dudes. He just couldn't get the fight. But at the end of the day, he get to keep his O. That ain't about shit. But I'm saying that if he shows y'all, if he don't sign with PBC, we know what it is. Now, I hope he signs with PBC. I hope Terence Crawford goes on to do great things in his career and fight all these guys. If he win, great. You know what I'm saying? I would love to see him beat all them dudes besides Errol Spence. I don't think he could fuck with EJ, especially EJ with Blu-ray. But, he might be able to. We have to see. But in order for us to see, he got to fight those guys. Anyway, y'all know what it is. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. You know what I'm saying? Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, there you go, talking that boxing again. I'm gone.